there's a moment like when we're training or whatever, well, I literally stop. It's happened every time. Like whether it's been again in Las Vegas, Burrow Canyon, any number of places I've been where I stop and I go, dude, is this fucking real? Like I'm doing what I'm so passionate about and I'm getting so much out of this. And this person is giving back to me in a way that I don't think I could pay for, right? I don't think I could pay for the value and the quality that I'm getting right now. And I'm going to get to share this with other people. It's pretty surreal.
We're actually given all these workouts at the academy now and we're doing them.
Makes about $500,000 a month.
An extra 20 grand for canine. Perfect.
He's like, keep it up, girl.
You see a bunch of fucked up shit throughout the job that a normal individual should not see.
Ironside exclusive.
I love exclusive.
That's why I can't spell. But we're right now.
And he was smacking me in the back of the head with a knife.
Within a year and a half, I was 6 in the world.
Wow. Bringing people together is really what I intended with the podcast from the very beginning, even before After Dark. It was, again, and bringing people together, bringing the community together and exposing other people to that community and hopefully help them find resource and knowledge and share it with other people and be encouraged to go maybe challenge themselves in a way they hadn't been challenged before. And that could just be in thinking, challenge their thinking, or challenge actually what they're doing physically, or whatever, depending on, what we're talking about, whether that's the preparedness space or the fitness space or the combination of the two. So those have to go hand in hand. To me, it just makes good, logical sense. And I don't see a lot of people out there providing solid or quality information, not even products, just information and speaking specifically to that space. So my goal was I have this fitness stuff and I have this kind of this podcast going, excuse me, and we're moving into this other space here. How do I slowly start to integrate that? Now, from a social media perspective, Red Dot Fitness has been around since 2010, right? I got some advice right when I started, in 2008, when I started to put the business together. One of my friends who's an expert marketer, this guy was on the forefront of all the social stuff as it was going on. My good buddy, Brian Kramer, who I went to elementary, junior high, and high school with.
He's got an episode out.
He's got an episode. Yeah, he's got a couple of books. He's got his own podcast. And he's like, dude, you got to get a Facebook. And I was like, oh, what?
This was in 2010?
This was in 2000. Yeah, it was about 2009, actually, when he was like, you got to get on Facebook.
13 years ago.
I'm like, dude, I don't want to be on Facebook, man. I think that thing's stupid. And by the way, I missed the MySpace thing, right? I was already a professional and had a family and whatever else. I don't know if that has anything to do with having a MySpace or not having a MySpace, but I can just tell you, anybody I knew that had a MySpace, it was just trouble. That's all that thing was. So I missed that whole thing. So I didn't really get it. So anyway, long story short is he's like, dude, you got to have Facebook and you got to do it for business and you got to start building those connections and whatever. I was very resistant to it. And of course I used it inappropriately. It was either me posting stupid shit, again, cat videos, or what you see still being posted every day.
You were posting cat videos?
that kind of ridiculous shit. Or basically trying to sell somebody something. Right. Those are the two worst things you can do.
Right. Right away.
Yeah, right away. Long story short is I never really respected the power of it. And part of it was I didn't understand it. And I didn't want to understand it. So there's an ignorance piece and also a conscious decision of look, man, this isn't me. I don't feel comfortable doing this, but also I just see this as being people are it's shit talking. And while I'm a fairly social person, I keep my circle tight. The business went on and on and on. We never really did much with it. Occasionally we jump on, we could leverage this. Oh, we could run an ad. We threw a bunch of money at Facebook and that didn't work. And Facebook sucks. It's not Facebook's fault. We had no plan. We didn't execute because we didn't have a plan. And as a result, we didn't get a result or a good return on investment. Flash forward 2017, we're getting ready to expand our business big time, basically triple in size, move our building, new construction project, all these kinds of things. We're like, oh yeah, we probably should have the social media thing going. To everything at that point had been built sort of organically, word of mouth, guerrilla marketing out on the street, literally handing out business cards when you're at a party, that kind of stuff. So now we got to do this. We got to do this social media thing. So 2017, we finally like, okay, we're getting on board. Well, fitness at that point in 2017 was already saturated, very saturated. And we had no clue what we were doing, and we had to try to get a little help. And we, like a lot of people, went through a lot of different types of help or even agencies to try to figure it out. It was just a fucking mess. Like, I hated it. And I, by the way, the whole time I had like this deep internal resistance to it, because all I was seeing really on Instagram was a bunch of shit. It was garbage. So, I only say that because I didn't really have much of like a social following, and we were trying to build one once we kind of missed the boat. And I'm not saying you can't still build one. I'm just saying it was much different previous. So as it relates to the podcast, and particularly kind of bridging this gap and bringing the community together, we're just sort of looking at all the platforms of what can we do. Well, I quickly, started doing more, going back to where the roots of After Dark, getting more on board with following more people in the preparedness firearms community. And what I noticed is there was probably like half a dozen people that were doing a really good job with their media. I mean, quality of production, it was smart, it was sexy, it was a little bit funny at times, but they were really producing some really great quality content. It was kind of like what we'd seen the best people in the fitness business do. So
step one was actually looking up, doing research on who's doing it. Doing it. Yeah. Following those people, learning from them. That's it. Like, and it was just watching and observing, right? And wanting to know more and kind of just paying attention. And then obviously with that comes all the other stuff that comes along with that. So that's all the people that are doing it, doing a horrible job with it. And not necessarily because they had bad content, that being a message, but they just weren't presenting it very well. So I was learning from that and observing that. Then there was also this, now we're getting into the times where, okay, well, if you put this up, you're going to get banned, right? Or you're going to get your shit's going to get canceled. And that happened a lot. And I was kind of trying to take that into account. Like, okay, well, if I want to get into the genre, what can I put out there? What can't I put out there? If I'm going to invest time, money into doing good, producing good content, how are we going to do that? So there was that. That was Instagram. And then there's YouTube and all of those things. And again, going back to social media, just didn't really have a much. I've decided to finally turn that on during the lockdowns. Really, I mean, we had a YouTube channel, there's nothing on it, but it was immediately putting together some content. I mean, I think we put together over 400 videos, like demonstration videos, in the matter of a couple of months, because we knew we needed to have that stuff up on the red dot side of things. But on the iron sight side of things, it was going to be like, okay, this needs to be like a media channel. The fitness stuff lives on the fitness side, and the After Dark stuff lives on the After Dark side. And we're getting into the game late. So building a YouTube channel now versus say 5 years ago is a completely different thing. I mean, you could speak to that. Yeah, it's completely different territory. And it's really dependent on the space too, because right now there's certain age demographics that are on different platforms. The algorithms play into, the favor of specific channels. With YouTube, really what it's looking at is click-through rate. How many people click on your video if it appears on their screen? If you've ever been on YouTube, you scroll past all those videos, well, you're decreasing their click-through rate, essentially, right? Any frame that comes onto your screen is an impression, and a click-through rate is the percentage of people that then click on your video. So, once somebody gets into your content, then what it goes to is watch time. How long do they watch? It's specifically doing a podcast, right? It's a completely different strategy and game plan than, doing a vlog, right? It's a completely different strategy than posting produced scripted movies, which is completely different than doing music videos.
It's wild.
Right? So if you look at this industry, if you look at the fitness space, there's a few people that have been in it on the YouTube side for 10 plus years, right? Who get a lot of views, but still minimal amount compared to like the music space, the music industry. You're getting paid off of advertising because YouTube's whole goal is, hey, how can we keep people on YouTube for as long as possible? So that's why they're going to favor channels that have high watch time and high click-through rates. Otherwise, they're going to go to TikTok. They're going to go to these other platforms, right? Whole other deal, and YouTube doesn't want you there, right? So YouTube is going to favor those channels that keep people on the platform. And when it comes to fitness, as I mentioned, it's very different, and I have a lot of experience in this specific space, with millions of views, thousands of videos posted. But, I get to look at the analytics and I get to look at all that stuff. But the thing is us that are trying to make an impact in this space, dude, we'll get crushed by one dope music video, like,
or one fucking, like a cat video, man. It drives me crazy.
You need a cat. You need a mascot on this podcast. You need to put a cat right there.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to put your dog up on a chair and
to that point. Like, so how do we do those things? And like, when you come to me like, hey, how are we going to do this? Like, what do you foresee happening? And based on my observations and whatever, there were obviously personalities, and that's a big part of it, who's good, but and there's a production value, in keeping people, in touch. Attention spans are less and less and less and less, as they've ever, or they continue to decrease more than they've ever been. But it's got to be interesting, right? You got to give them some quality stuff. It has to look good. Like, there has to be some production value in there. And, while you can still video some stuff on your iPhone, it's evolved.
It depends.
Yeah.
It really depends. I think it depends if you're building a brand or if you're building a personality. The audience is going to know, like, people are going to know this person cares, this person's not posting cat videos. This person cares.
Right.
And they can expect the same thing for, the products. If you look at some of the quality products out there, you look at, what are expensive products. You're looking at like BMW. That's not cheap, right? You're going to get a new car. Apple, an iPhone, $1,000, right? They're not putting out shitty
garbage
quality, garbage media. Even though a piece of garbage media might get more views than the Apple commercial, right? So it's really that kind of conversation of, what's your plan? What do you want to do? And in the podcast space, actually, there's some people that I think put out lower quality content on purpose. Like, there's podcasts that have
the clickbait.
Yeah, clickbait, but they have like weird zooms going on all the time, because they know that they're speaking to a younger audience, and that younger audience is going to, like all that stuff. Each platform kind of has different criteria, of what would be quality. So yes, it needs to be quality, right? That's what you said.
Yeah, but quality on TikTok is different than quality.
Exactly. You have entertainment quality, you've got story quality, you've got visual quality, you've got audio quality. Different things matter differently, right? On these different platforms. Your content has found success. It's, getting seen by millions of people now, right?
Which is crazy for me to think about. It's a little mind blowing and there's so many analytics to look at. This is a fairly new game for me. I mean, I did fitness for 25 years or whatever. I've been doing social media I've been familiar with it for the last 10 and really digging in probably the last 3, and with some help of people like yourself and some other really great people out there that have they just think differently than me. Right. And then they're also on the shit all the time. So they get it. And it changes so fast. It evolves so rapidly. It feels like what you're thinking and doing today is obsolete tomorrow sometimes. So I have to one of the things I had to learn how to do was disconnect myself from being like getting too high or too low about what we were putting out there and really remain with the consistency. And you mentioned something that was really important to me, which I told you right from the get-go, is at all times, I want to respect the viewer or the listener, the subscriber who has invested their time or is investing their time into listening to or watching the content. And even if they're not down with the actual content, like they're not interested or whatever, they recognize that every time we do it, we are doing our very, very best to turn out the best quality product every time. It's the same thing, same as we always handled ourselves in the gym, as well as, hey, look, like this might not be for you, but what we're doing here, we're doing at the highest level we can, given our capabilities and our talent levels. And we're always looking for ways to make it better. There's innovation that's coming. There's things that we've done. We've made more investment in certain things to make sure that, and by the way, that's a hard measure as a business person to go like, how do I quantify or qualify? Like, I'm going to buy this microphone, right? And what is that? What's the return on investment I'm going to get for the $350 or $400 I spent on the microphone? Well, I don't fucking know. I mean, I really don't know right now. What I do know is I do know I want to provide the best quality. And I do know that the current microphones or whatever that I have aren't doing that for me. I am not happy. And I've gotten some feedback from the listeners. Not that they weren't happy, but clued me into a few things, and we should probably step this up. And I will realize that investment over the longer term. So going back to I'm in this for the long haul. We'll continually invest in providing a quality product. I think that's super important for anybody that's thinking about, really putting any kind of effort into this game, because it moves fast. Totally.
But one of the things that I respect, and that's so hard to do, that you've done, is you've kept the old stuff up.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't tried to reinvent myself.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just all up there. You can go back and listen to episode 1, and be like, okay, what's the difference? Intro's a little different, the way you talk, of course, everything improves, but being able to go back and watch that, when you started as a trainer, I don't know what that was like your first, I don't know if you started, you could talk about it, your first client you ever had, but your skills changed, right? As you got older. The thing with that, and with having a job and improving skill sets and doing that, you're never going to be like, you know what? I'm going to give away all the money I made. Right. I'm going to create a new business name. I'm going to shave my hair and I'm just going to start over. Right. But with content, it's so easy, man. You can just be like, oh, I'm so much better. I've learned so much. Delete. Right. Yeah. But, it's hard, man. It's hard to just keep going and put it out. I've noticed that with people. Right.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought that up, because again, going back to what I said before about I got this sort of lesson every 100 episodes, you kind of level up, and thinking about the last, we're getting close. We're getting close to 100 here. But one of the ones that I remember, the episode that I remember being so unhappy with and literally embarrassed about, was Jason Khalipa, world-class athlete, CrossFit legend. He's a local guy here. I was able to he volunteered his time. He's a super busy entrepreneur who said, hey, no problem. I'd love to come over and have a conversation. He made his way over he gave me a couple hours of his time. And this is a dude that runs, on a calendar and on a watch. That's just him. Right. I've got as many reps as possible as his book. I got it up here on the shelf. He's just I have this time. For the time that I have, I'm going to give everything I have, and then I'm moving on to the next thing. Long story short, I got the call. We recorded this thing, listened back. It was shit. The sound quality was awful. It had a lot to do with equipment, had to do with some of the setup we had, and it was a lesson learned. But I remember reaching out to Jason, going, Jason, I'm so sorry, man. I'm so embarrassed by this. This is not quality that we expect of ourselves. Here's the thing about podcasting. You can't really fuck that up, right? Because if you fuck it up, you can't, it's not like you can rewind it and do it again. If you're trying to have what I said, or what we talked about earlier, was this is authentic, genuine conversations. You can't really redo it. So yeah, all that old stuff's up there. And when I look and listen back to it, sometimes I want to replay clips of some of the old stuff we had, because the quality of the content's amazing, right? Yeah. From some of these guests. If we go back and look at some of the people that we've had, particularly in the fitness and the wellness space, there's some really high quality, next level people in there. Some of those episodes still have more listens than, even our more current, more popular ones. Well, I guess the point of that is I sometimes want to put those clips up, but I go, Eli, I don't know if I want to put this up, because it's not what our current listeners or our listeners would expect from us. And I don't want to disappoint them.
Yeah. And I came on after Khalipa, right?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Sitting here taking
there was another group of people, and it wasn't their fault either.
There's so much that goes into it, and it's a
wild, wild west too. It's still learning. Sound engineering is one thing, right? Video production is another thing. Obviously being able to interview somebody and being organized around that, and also being a good guest. Those are all components that make a good podcast. So, but we've learned a lot of lessons.
Yeah. And it's taken me thousands of reps, since the last 6 years. I think I started in 2016 professionally, full time, but there's a formula, man. And it's kind of frustrating, because I work with some people fully remote, and, they have to do it all, and they have to set up the Zoom, and they have to do it all. And they, the quality, there's an engagement. If you get, good, and you want to spend time and you want to master some of this stuff, you can get in the room and take a conversation and, get it in front of a lot of different people if you have that formula figured out. Right. And, you were saying, 2009, somebody was like, you got to get on Facebook, man. And you're like, fuck off. Yeah. And now I'm over here saying, Scott, we got to start you a TikTok. And you're like, fuck you, man.
Talk about deep internal resistance, man. I mean, Instagram was one, Facebook was one thing. Instagram is another. Now we're talking YouTube. I love, I think there's some things with YouTube I can get on board with, but the whole TikTok thing was really driving me crazy. And you'd come to me and go, dude, you got to get on TikTok. And I'm like, dude, another one? We got to get on TikTok. Yeah. Another one. I go, how are we even going to make this work? Who wants to see me on TikTok? I mean, to me, it's a bunch of kids, right? Or it's a bunch of,
you got a large demographic on TikTok over 30.
Apparently.
I mean, if they're on TikTok, maybe they're still kids.
That's what I was just about to say. I was trying to put it in more of a sort of diplomatic way.
Yeah. The thing is, man, is people think they have these stereotypes on all these platforms like, oh, TikTok, I will never do TikTok. I thought that. Everyone has their own bias towards these platforms, but what we forget to realize is it's just people on the other end of them.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
It's just people, and you're talking to people at the end of the day. And how can, you get what you feel so strongly about, or just entertain and have a good time? Cause that's a big piece of it too. Like people have rough days and they log onto these platforms just to see someone similar that's chopping it up, having fun, and isn't just posting dances, so
I need that reminder. Like I need that reminder that it's okay to be like that. And for those reasons, and that is some people just need to disconnect, and that is their way of doing it. I'm not saying it's a healthy or unhealthy way of doing it, but if it's helpful for them, then great. And it's also what you mentioned about there's people on the other end. And so from a business perspective, that's real estate. And, having that real estate on that platform or in that particular space is important for any business person. And I think that's the more rational way to be looking at it is you have all these different platforms, not that you have to be on all of them, but if you're going to be on them, whatever ones you pick, you really want to leverage. So being selective about what you put up there and how you do it is really important. That's what I've learned in this, in the process. And I think for me, what I originally thought about TikTok was you just got to put the funny videos up. You got to put the comedic type stuff that happens in the, on the podcast. Cause otherwise it's just a podcast. I'm not dancing. I'm not singing. I'm not lip syncing. There are no cats or dogs. However,
there was,
and the thing went wild, right? We did put a dog on, but I think I could not, that's probably the best lesson I could have gotten from you, which was, hey, listen, we just need to remember, try to get a handle on who we're talking to and what they like and what they don't like, and be really consistent at putting it in front of them. And they'll let us know, they'll let us know. And occasionally one of these things will go wild and just be like, I have no idea why that's going wild.
There's a clip of you and you're like, what is it? It's the shortest thing ever. It's, if you're going to work out 3 days a week, a full body workout for 3 days a week makes a lot of sense.
That was like 10 bazillion views.
It's right? Like almost at 1 million views.
Yeah. Why?
So it's like, how many hours have you spoken,
Oh, how many times have I said that phrase?
Or just how many hours have you spent, on this podcast to date?
Oh, God.
And it's about what, 8 seconds?
At best.
Is that the most profound 8 seconds?
Absolutely not.
No.
Yeah.
Like it's not. So it's just about,
and it doesn't have to be is what is, I think the point.
The delivery system and understanding what you're trying to do. If you are thinking about putting out content, this is at all valuable is, YouTube, your SEO, like you're putting up how-tos. YouTube's not putting your video in front of people for free.
Right.
They want money for that.
Right.
TikTok's actually putting your content in front of 300, 400 people to test its relevance. So you have as good a chance of going viral on TikTok if you have 0 followers, right? Well, not as good a chance, but it's way closer than these other platforms than if you have 20,000, right? So, it just depends. And at the end of the day, 600 views, you have to pay for that on YouTube.
Right.
You have to pay for 600 views, like $30. And you get that for free over here on TikTok. But there's this false idea that maybe people aren't on the other end. They're like characters or something. They're like, no, it's just
some might argue that too. There's bots and all that other stuff, but
totally.
Yeah, that's one thing I've had to learn. So bringing the message to the people and trying to bring people together, I think actually for circling this all the way back is a matter of doing all those things and trying to do them as the best we can. And also understanding that we're trying to be really good at this. And so there's this evolution that comes along with it. And sometimes, it feels like we're falling on our face. Like, wow, that video bombed because it only got, 3,000 views and not 46,000 views or whatever else. Well, did it? Because then all of a sudden a month later, it shows up and it's like, it's going wild again for whatever the reasons are. And we don't know, we don't understand it yet. And we're trying to kind of put all this together. And going back to the quality piece and bringing quality information, one of the things that I found was really tough kind of right up front was one, it was getting the people in, right? Because logistically we face some challenges. So you mentioned going to Las Vegas or going to Burrow Canyon, and we've used some of these things as testing grounds, and we've had our challenges in both situations. I think actually the Burrow Canyon one came off great. We had some challenges, remember, when we went to Las Vegas with some of the stuff we were trying to record, because it was kind of uncharted territory. We hadn't really done it yet, but we've sort of figured out how to be mobile, and we've made some investments in being mobile so that we can go to the people. And going back to how I learned about some of this stuff, and again, how I determined some of the things that I determined and made some hypotheses and whatnot, hypotheses, however if I don't even know if that's a word.
I don't know the definition.
Yeah, but was to, again, see these major influencers, like what are they doing? And then see these people that don't seem to be much of influencers. They're more of entertainers, and how are they doing it? And then there was all these different types of things. And one of the things I saw was, I couldn't really make sense of where these people, because in the fitness, let me draw a parallel. In the fitness space, what you saw was the really heavy fitness influencer meeting with the other really heavy influencer, and they're trying to leverage one another's audiences, right? And try to steal or capture, some of their following. In the firearm space, that really didn't exist yet. You had kind of, let's say 10, like super high level, people that had already built it very fast, built their following over there very fast. And maybe they brought people to the platform from Instagram or from Facebook or from YouTube or from Patreon or whatever else. But they were fairly big and they were kind of doing it. And then there was this huge drop off to who was next. And it was like, you could go from like the 100,000+ follower person down to the 10,000 person follower, and even like the 4,000 person following. And the 4,000 person following is getting way more engagement, or as much engagement as these people that had 100+. And so I kind of took a look at that and I was like, well, there's all these other people in between that are actually starting to put out some pretty good content. They were kind of figuring it out. The way I describe this is it's like I see it, firearms community being like basically 10 years behind the fitness community on like the Instagram scene, right? And even the YouTube scene. It was very fuddy on Instagram, right? That's starting to, on YouTube, that's starting to change rapidly, right? In a different day on YouTube, it's harder to build those subscriptions, or that channel, maybe compared to 5 years ago. But on the Instagram side of things, or even the TikTok side of things, like, I'm not even seeing people on TikTok kind of really in the space. Like, and why? Because TikTok isn't going to have the firearm stuff. They're going to shut that stuff right down. So what are you bringing to the table otherwise? But what I wanted to do was, there's all these people that have very interesting stories, have very interesting skill sets. They're maybe trying their hand as being entrepreneurs in the business, whether that's through gear, coaching, trying to put other people together, developing a new product, something like that, or providing something. I want to say they're a little bit more obscure. Like, they're not the major, massive influencer, and they're just doing what they do, and maybe they're just filming. Like, met some instructors, like they had no earthly. They didn't have an inclination of the energy to build a huge Instagram following. They were doing just fine with word of mouth, but all of a sudden their Instagram's blown up because people are just filming them do what they do on a regular basis. They don't have to, there's no scripting. They're just basically shooting video. And then eventually they learn, like, oh man, maybe if I edited this a little bit more, I could get a little bit more traffic, and there's ways to monetize this and whatever else. They're catching on. It's what fitness did. But I'm looking at all these other people and I'm like, I want to get out to the people that are in the middle, that are in the gaps or on the fringes. While I would love to sit down with guys like Mike Glover, Garand Thumb, Haley Strategic, those types of people, and maybe pick their brains. I think they're very interesting people and I'd like to have a conversation. I got to be honest, like, I don't think there's much that we're going to talk about that hasn't already been talked about, or they haven't already talked about, or talked about with some other major influencer, been on somebody else's big show, Black Rifle Coffee, or whatever the thing is, and it's already been put out there. I like the guys in the middle and that don't have those big followings. And there's a couple of guys like in the podcast space that I think have done a really good job with that. They've had big names on, but they've also spent time with people that are weren't very well known until they came on the show. Guys like Sean Ryan. If you listen to the Sean Ryan show, he's got a very specific type of guest that he brings on, and some really interesting stuff coming out of there that you would not have heard had you not listened to the Sean Ryan show. I really like him. I like Cleared Hot. I like Andy Stumpf. I think, coming from the fitness space a little bit, from the CrossFit world, but he brings on some people that are a little bit more obscure, people that don't, you might not really know, because those people have value to bring to the table, and they're there. Yes, they might have a book. Yes, they might have a product or whatever, but they're digging into kind of what makes them tick and what's keeping them interested, and the value that they can bring to the bigger scene. So, like, while I would love to interview people like that, I like, those bigger names. I like the smaller names. I like the people that people don't really know about, that you just kind of come across, or I'll come across them on Instagram or on YouTube and go, damn, this guy's doing a really good job with this particular content or this particular thing. And in order to do that, like, what I found is, and what I learned doing it like remote through Zoom, I fucking hate it. I can't. It loses so much. There's texture that's lost. There's quality of production that's lost, which I already talked about being a big thing. I need to be in the same room with the person. Like, that's how I wouldn't have a beer with somebody over Zoom.
Have you seen any popular top 10 shows that are all whole Zoom interviews?
No, never.
Because there's like, the whole point of this is bringing people together. The spiral of content, the cycle of it, of who is, gets the wheel. It's never the same person for like as long as some dictator's been president. Right. I'm serious though.
Well put.
Right. It's because what ends up happening is people make the mistake of just trying to, interview the top,
leverage
other people. And that's good to some extent, especially when you're starting out. Like, you want to have conversations with people that, are relevant to some extent, because obviously they're relevant for a reason, and you can take a little bit of that and learn from them, see what they're doing, ask them questions behind the scenes. Cause a lot of people don't actually set up and have conversations like this. Right. The people that come in and enter this space, they are creating a group and a community of people. And that's why I got into this space in the first part. And I wouldn't be here in this room or have ever met you if I hadn't had access to online education or podcasts. Like, I remember listening to a podcast from Russell Brunson, and this was just me on my commute in high school. Like, I listened to this podcast, and it was talking about something called like a rainmaker, and how you can actually learn skill sets to be able to go into a business, provide enough value so that you can, make an income doing something that's relevant for the business. I was like, oh, that sounds so cool. Like, and then I found a whole community of people that did that. Right. And then I started watching their YouTube videos and finding their content. And so, you can newsjack your way to a viral video.
Everybody knows people that are doing that.
And a lot of people in the space that come in for a short period of time are doing that. And if they're smart and they're good marketers, they can stay relevant for a long period of time, enough to, monetize something and get the hell out and live in their mansion for the rest of their life. Right. Great. If you want to do that. But what happens is, these new communities of people are built, and that's the biggest thing with all this stuff. And that's why the comments don't matter. If someone's hating on something, it doesn't matter, because all of these things are like little hooks, these little tiny TikTok videos or YouTube videos or whatever, people are watching. They're all hooks to something much deeper and bigger. And that is a group of people that think similarly, that are looking for their group of people that they don't get from hanging out with their family. Like, nobody in my family wanted to, develop online education.
Right.
Like, you know, chances are you've found your group in this after dark and you know, have developed this format because of those reasons. Like, it's the same thing why I started in this space is I wanted to highlight people that didn't understand the video marketing thing. They were gangsters in their own right. Like, they'd spent 30 years doing all this, you know, these kinds of, they were the real deal essentially, but they didn't have that piece that was like, why is this guy like the whole reason you didn't want to start a Facebook?
Yeah.
That's why I got into this space, is to work with people like you know, people that were like, screw this, but that were actually doing the work in the right way, you know, and that's how I got connected with all these people that I've been able to work with and revamp what they're doing and show it to people in a way. And that's what you want to do. It sounds like that you were just explaining with these people that aren't, you know, they're not shooting and have the most TikTok followers or Instagram followers, but they're the ones that know what they're doing. And we need to go travel to those people and show and highlight like the community for the entire community, so we can show more people.
The best place to do that is right here in the studio where we're sitting right now, because it's sort of plug and play and it's very controlled and you know, it's got the set and all the cameras and the sound equipment and whatever else, but also recognize it's not realistic. If you really want to grow this thing, it means you have to get out there. You have to hit the road, and you know, that there's expense to that. There's time, there's commitment and sacrifice in order to do that. But we've, you know, done a few things in the last 6 months to put ourselves in a position to be able to do that. So as we're moving through the next couple of months and into the next year, my goal is to go and hit some different regions. I mean, we've already sort of been down in Southern California. We're trying to get back down there in September, October as well, and get down there. And there's so much talent down there. We barely scratched the surface with the CRW stuff that we did, and what's coming up on November 5th and 6th down there with the CRW event. Barely scratched the surface. There's so much knowledge, so much community, so much fun, you know, that's going on down there. People need to know about, so they can, at least they know there's somebody there when they're ready, right? That kind of thing. But I'm trying to get over to Utah a little later in this year as well and meet with some folks out there. There's a lot of talent that's sort of in the sort of Western area that we could get to within a couple of days drive or whatever, and spend some time. Got a camper van now to be able to make that trip. Some people may have seen that kind of pop up, make some cameo appearances in some of the social media, but I'm super excited about that because that gives us range. And it gives us the ability to really go and put together a solid production with the people that we're talking about, and so that they can use that media and they can leverage that stuff in order to help themselves to grow their community. And as you know, as you basically articulated, bring people together. Again, I think a lot of people sit back and they go, what's this guy's angle? You know, like I do a review, for example, on
Rogue Methods.
Yeah, on the Rogue, on Raul Martinez and Rogue Methods. And we did his close contact gunfighter course, and people are like, oh, you must be in bed with Raul. I'm like, I'm not in bed with Raul. I just respect the shit out of what Raul's doing. Number one, from a business perspective. And these are the people I want to interview, right? So first off, guy comes from the biggest firearms training agency or sort of organization in the entire country right now. Massive. Everybody knows who they are. I won't mention them on this podcast. Comes from that, starts from the ground, starts working his ass off. He's traveling every weekend. Not only is he traveling every weekend, I have heard nothing but amazing things about this guy, right? As he's building these courses and taking people around. I felt compelled to want to go do it. Like, I want to go do it. And and I'm going to document it. Like, that's why I'm doing this, so they can share with other people. If he's that good, like, this is going to be great. Raul didn't ask me to do that. In fact, he didn't give me permission to do it. I just did it. Like, I went to his session and went to his class and had an amazing time and reviewed it. I'm not because I'm in bed with anybody. This show has 0 sponsors. The sponsor is Red Dot Fitness, right? It has 0 sponsors. I'm not doing this I don't get paid by California Range Weekend. I don't get paid by Triple Feed. I don't get paid by, the people that are coming in here. That's not what this is. This is literally what you said, and that's bringing the community together and exposing them to them. And if I can help people along the way, because that's what I did in fitness for so long, it worked out really fucking well. Like I was able to have a career and I have relationships and I can call people when I need them. And and depend on people and look to people when I have a question or I'm stuck or whatever. That's what being prepared is, right? That's what this community is at its roots supposed to be all about. So I'm just looking to get with those people that are also trying to do the same thing. And I'm excited about kind of what we've been able to line up. And God, if it wasn't for TikTok, if it wasn't for Instagram, if it wasn't for YouTube, we wouldn't be doing it, right? You wouldn't be doing it. I mean, you got Apple Podcasts and Spotify and whatever to get the audio out on, but you need these other things, and they've been incredibly helpful. As much as I've resisted them and as intimidated as I've been by all of them, every single one of them, just scared to death. Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, man. This doesn't seem like me. They've all helped to be able to do this, and we're just starting to really pick up some momentum now. And now I'm feeling different about it. You know, like, not only am I encouraged, but like I'm doing weird things like checking stats and analytics every day, you know, like how many views we get, you know, where did this come from? How many subscriptions we get from this thing? I think because those are important things. Those are metrics that we can measure. And I like math. And it also tells me what we should be doing more of and what we should be doing less of. And it allows me to have that intelligent conversation. So I don't need to be intimidated and I feel better about it. But at the end of the day, it's still about like, was it a good show? Did it provide value? And when people hit us back and they let us know, man, I really got a lot from this, or I really appreciate you putting this out. Those little notes those are gold, man.